Released March 19th with little and no fanfare, Terminal Reality's The Walking Dead Survival Instinct is a first-person shooter that, unlike its Telltale counterpart, is based off of the AMC television show rather than the comic books. It stars Daryl and Merle Dixon, played respectively by Norman Reedus and Michael Rooker, and is set as a prequel to the show, explaining their beginnings at the end of days. Gameplay. There's some really good ideas in here. Beyond your standard FPS setup, the game encourages you to be stealthy. The AI on the walkers, biters, eaters, zombies, whatever you'd like to call them, is fairly good, with one exception that I will get to in a moment. Sound does play a large role in this game. If you throw a bottle, zombies will flock to it, allowing you a chance to pass unnoticed. Crouching reduces your footstep noise. If you make a loud noise like a gunshot, zombies come out of the woodwork. I'd seen previous interviews where one of the producers had mentioned that if you had 3 walkers chasing you, that should scare you as much as a horde of them. I will say, on that front, again with one exception, this is a success. You also can't stand next to a walker for too long, or they will smell you and attack. If you've been running, sweat drips down the screen, and they notice you even faster. Also, you collect people, as you progress throughout the game. Other survivors that you meet during the story who, when you arrive at a new place, can be armed and sent out to collect whatever you need, from ammunition to food to gas, but at a risk factor that they may not come back and you may lose their equipped items. This introduces one of my frustrations. I had a wounded survivor and there was no explanation of how to heal her. I had to literally go ask on a forum board how to do it. There's no indicator on screen that you can do so that's clearly defined. Also, this game is about the things you run out of in premise. For a game that's about a lack of resource, it truly ends up being about a game managing the inventory for the things you don't need because you're constantly full. You never run out of bullets, even if you're halfway skilled. And then comes the thing I've been putting off talking about, the breaking of the game. There are actually 2 elements to this, and when combined, creates an almost completely safe level clear on every level. Our site mission is to create spoiler-free reviews. However, these are not spoilers. This is an inherent design flaw of the game that anyone picking it up will figure out in just 2 minutes. First, if you jump on top of a car to the roof panel, zombies, for whatever reason, cannot grab you. They cannot hurt you. Second, the crossbow, which you don't get until late in the first playthrough, has an inherent hit detection box issue. And this is a term to denote when you can interact with an item. What it means is you can grab bolts from a long distance. So if you stand on top of a car, shoot a gun, most of the zombies in the level will come running. Stand stacked around the car, and you grab your crossbow, shoot them in the face, grab the crossbow immediately after you fire it, reload, repeat. If you don't yet have the crossbow, your knife or a pipe will work just as well, if not a little slower. Yes, zombies do respawn in the levels, but at a much slower rate than the mass culling you will be performing. If you look at the cars after you finish, they almost look like zombie clown cars. All the zombies just piled out and died right on top of each other. This is a huge blow to the game's goal, to make you scared of the walkers. Instead, you see them as bumbling idiots, and once you get that crossbow, it truly feels like the zombie hunting edition of Cabela's. The other large frustration I have with the game is that it is completely on rails. There's no chance to deviate or tell your own story. Yes, you have choices of which level to go to, whether you'd like to go to the sawmill or to the hospital, but to give an example, there's a time where you find someone and their wounded partner. The non-wounded party says if you go help another friend that's pinned down somewhere else, they'll give you a big bag full of goodies, which is sitting right there next to them. So what did I do in the game? I turned and shot that person in the head. What happened? Nothing. They blinked at me. I couldn't take the bag. I couldn't determine Daryl's level of goodness. It is a bit frustrating. On the plus side, decent shooting controls and good stealth ideas. On the minus side, poorly implemented instances of good ideas, game-breaking design, and lack of choice. Story. The story retells the origins of the TV show characters who never appeared in the comic books but have become polarizing fan favorites on the show. Sadly, anyone who's ever watched the show will notice a giant plot hole in the setup of the beginning of the game. The story throughout the game is pretty light. They could have crafted Daryl into a leader of his own with some of the ideas that they started, such as directing a group of your own survivors, and really fleshed out the character. Instead, things happen to Daryl, and he only really reacts. I will say that they stayed true to the heart of both characters, Merle and Daryl. The game ends rather abruptly, and at one point you lose Merle after tracking him down, and you don't say a single word as Daryl about it. In fact, that happens a lot. You have the survivors you've rescued, you send them off for something, and they never come back. Well, on to the next town. It's this lack of emotional response that really doesn't tie you into the game, and is the exact opposite of the Telltale offering. On the plus side, it's true to the spirit of the characters. On the minus side, there's no real story development, further fleshing out of the characters, or depth to your actions. Presentation. The Walking Dead survival instinct is no pretty princess. Instead, it's the ugly baby. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's that you'll notice jagged edges everywhere, poor textures. On every assassination kill, which you spend a lot of time doing, just look at the hair on the zombies. And other than that, just overall mediocre graphics. Is it the worst game I've ever seen? No, not by a long shot. Is it the worst this generation? Maybe. I'd be hard-pressed to think of another game that looked like this. Is it a game breaker? By no means. Sure, I want it to look super realistic to help immerse me in it, but it's not. And once you get over that, it doesn't mean you can't have fun with it. It just means you know you're not taking the prom queen out. Sound is well done except for one thing. Zombies. In this game, sound plays a huge role, and when you step on a can, you and the zombies hear it. When you accidentally brush against a gate by getting too close, you cringe. But zombies are omnidirectional, even if there's only one. And what I mean by that is it sounds like they're coming from everywhere. If a zombie is behind me and to my left, that's where I should hear it in physical space. Instead, I hear it from all directions, even if there's only a single zombie. It makes finding them very difficult, and I found myself whipping a 360 every time I heard one just to find it. And I'm not talking about the console. On the plus side, overall good sound effects, and they managed to make the character models look enough like Merle and Daryl to be passable. On the minus side, overall poor graphics and omnidirectional zombies makes doing your stealth job difficult. Summary and verdict.
Sorry, brother.
Guilty. The verdict is guilty of being a rush job to cash in on a show's popularity at the height of its popularity. There's a reason review copies weren't sent to any media outlets, and there was no fanfare at launch by the companies behind the game. They're going for the sucker vote. They basically want to grab people who know nothing about the game and say, "Ooh, I love The Walking Dead," and buy this. There's so many great ideas in this game, but subpar execution across the board prevents it from being anything special. However, there is an innate fun to the game. Even with its game-breakingness, after completing my first playthrough, I'm still playing the game for fun. I'm still searching for the collectibles I missed the first time around, and I'm still exploring the other geographical branches that I ignored the first time. The game is becoming a guilty pleasure. With that being said, no one should most likely buy this game at retail for full price. If you do decide to, buy the disc-based version so that you can trade it in. The only way I'd recommend the digital download of this game is if you're going to share it with a friend or family member on a second PS3 on the PlayStation Network. Although the game could have been great, with the rush job they clearly performed on it, the unfinished extra ideas that were poorly implemented, and the subpar graphics and gameplay flaws, Gamersledge gives The Walking Dead Survival Instinct 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 10 zombie clown cars. For all things Walking Dead, keep checking Gamersledge.com.